Edinburgh Outdoors is a podcast about the green spaces and the people in them that keep our city breathing. From community gardens to wild or secret spaces, getting outside brings benefit to everyone, whether it's through volunteering, taking part in an activity, or just taking it slow. And now here's a podcast that's got a lot of wind on it. It was a really, really windy day. It was beautifully sunny, and I went to visit Jock Tamson's Gairden, which is in Duddingston and is a community garden. And as you walk into the garden, your heart just lifts because there are views of the Pentlands. There's a lovely loch right beside the garden, and different community organisations and individuals go along and volunteer in the garden, and they're doing a huge amount of fantastic work. They're entering the Kilt Walk, which you'll hear about on the podcast, and all I can say is it's really worth donating something towards this garden, or going and just visiting and sitting there and enjoying the atmosphere, looking at the hills. It's beautiful. And enjoying the wind blowing around you. So you'll hear the wind as we're talking, and enjoy.
So the whole garden is run as community space. There's no individual allotments. This one here is one of our user groups, Tipperary. Oh, watch yourself. Uneven footpath.
It's a good start.
So they work with adults with learning difficulties and autism, and they look after the kind of outside beds here. And then these ones in the middle, these 4 smaller beds, are cut flower beds, which if you'd come about 3 weeks ago would have been looking magnificent.
So I'm here today with Liz Spence from Jock Tamson's Garden, and welcome, Liz. It's really nice to meet you. We've been walking around the garden while you've been picking flowers. So tell me about your role, how long you've been here and what you're doing here.
So I'm the manager here, and I've been here since 2016. The whole garden started with a church-funded project through Duddingston Kirk on glebe land, which is the bit of land that the minister used to farm back in the olden days. So back then it was just 4 acres of overgrown wildflowers and nettles and brambles, and that kind of evolved over the years into becoming Jock Tamson's Gairden, which is an independent charitable trust. It's named after Jock Tamson, the old Scottish expression, we're all Jock Tamson's bairns, meaning that we're all the same under the skin. And there's no one Jock Tamson historically, but the minister here in the early 1800s was called the Reverend John Tamson, the kind of English version of Jock Tamson, and he was married twice. He was widowed and then he married a widow, and between them in the end they had 11 children, and he used to call his congregation his bairns. He was a very kind guy in the days where the kirk could be quite a kind of foreboding, kind of judgmental place, and the more I hear about him, the more I like him. So when it came to finding a name, so it seemed like a good name to call the garden. The ethos here is that everybody's welcome, no matter how much or little you know about gardening, or for whatever reason you want to come here, just to enjoy being outdoors, to mix with other people, to learn new skills. But the sociable thing is first and foremost. We have a strapline that says people, place, plants, in that order. And the tea break is just as important as any other part of the day. And you'll see people chatting about things that are important to them. Like Tuesday we were just having a big laugh about stuff, and other days we have furious political discussions. But in between times you hear people catching up about asking how grandchildren are doing, or how someone's driving test went, stuff like that. And it's really nice to see people's relationships develop and flourish as the weeks go on, which is not to say we don't have arguments. Because we're kind of normal community.
So you've got volunteers and they come and they find you. I think you said people can just get in touch and come and find out about it. But can somebody just come and visit?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. People are welcome to come in whenever they like and just wander around, sit in one of the benches. There's lots of nice places to sit and just enjoy the place. Bring a picnic, bring your knitting.
I think I started smiling as I walked through the gate. It's really nice, and with the lock and everything. It just looks so beautiful. Yeah. It's really nice. And so you've got some volunteers walking the Kilt Walk.
Yeah.
Are you walking it?
Yes, I am.
The whole thing?
Yeah, well, 11 mile, the middle one, the big stroll. I did it last year for another charity, and I was just delighted. You turn up dressed in ridiculous fashion, get to chat to people all the way around, and every so often people give you free sweeties.
Oh, do they?
And then you get food at the end at Murrayfield. It's great. So our funding for my salary and the salary of the gardener and Dr. Neil's next door comes from the National Lottery Community Fund. That's been for the last 3 years, and we've put in an application for 3 years more funding. So we're hopeful that we will get that, because that's always the hard funding to find. Let me think, who else have we had funding from? Lots of bits and pieces of funding for specific projects, like this bench you're sitting on and this table from Warburton's. The polytunnels, Tesco and Greggs. Edinburgh Airport Community Fund helped us with the cages, the edible flower beds, Edinburgh University.
And so how many of you are doing the kilt walk?
20 of us. That's great, it's kind of grown arms and legs. A lot of discussion about what to wear and trying to fit into old tatany things and stuff like that. So it'll be amazing. There's like a real crew of us. We've been out doing practice walks around the city, across the meadows, up the Innocent Railway line and stuff. So really looking forward to it. It'll be a nice chance to just get a chat to people.
And what will the funds go towards?
So the funds will just, I think, kind of help us generally with our unrestricted funding. So it would depend on, I suppose, what needs funded at the time. So it could be going towards salary, and it might be to extend our capacity to have people here. We have a well-being worker, so it would be nice to do more of that kind of work where we have supported places for volunteers. For the kind of people who maybe would find it hard just to rock up to a new place and get to know strangers. So yeah, that could go to a variety of things like that.
So they could come as a volunteer but have support?
Yes.
So not just turn up and garden, but turn up and actually be helped through the process.
Exactly, yeah.
That'd be brilliant.
Yeah.
And if someone wants to support you, how do they find out about that?
So Jock's Walkers is the name of our team. Think of Johnny Walker, except it's Jock's Walkers. So that's the name of our page on Just Giving. So if you just Google Jock's Walkers, it's about 3 hits down. Or have a look on our website or our Facebook page or our Instagram.
That sounds good.
Makes us sound like social media heroes, but we're not.
You were picking flowers, and that's for a sale, is that right?
Yeah, so every Friday during the season, which is quite a short season this year, but we have Jock Tamson's Greens to Go, which is an old-fashioned kind of market barrow with cover on it, and we sell the sort of produce we've been growing: tatties, leeks, sweet corn. We also sell bunches of flowers, jam that we make from fruit in the Gairden. We've had honey from our beekeepers, just whatever's ready and in season, and that again helps to go back into our fund. And it's also an opportunity for people to buy locally grown stuff that has no air miles whatsoever, especially the flowers.
Where would people find that if they came along?
People might have heard of the Garden Room Cafe at Duddingston Kirk, and it's just right outside of that.
Right. And that's on?
So Fridays from 11 o'clock onwards.
Right. Until it's sold?
Until it's sold. Or
so it's about 11:10, looking at it.
It's not quite, usually got weeked away by 1:45.
I think I might be down here getting some. It looks amazing. So how do the people find you, the groups that come and garden here?
Now that's an interesting question. Tipperith were here before I started back in 2018, 16, right. And Upmo, who's the group next door to this plot, again adults with learning difficulties and autism, one of their support workers just wandered in one day and said, "We don't have anything to garden in apart from a few outdoor planters." So that's how that kind of started. People wandering past would be, I suppose, the answer to that.
And then they just say when they're going to come, or they have a slot that they come and garden, do they?
Well, in the case of the user groups, they actually have a dedicated space. So Tipperith come 1 to 2 days a week. Upmore are usually here 5 days a week. And then there's University of the Third Age. Again, that was just somebody walking through, and there's people in every day with them. Usually they're very organised and have, plots divided up into, whose year is it for the beans, that kind of thing.
And have you got some spaces that aren't allocated to anybody, but they could be?
Sort of. Yeah. We do have a bit of capacity for new user groups, should anybody be looking for space, but it has to be something that's done as a community rather than, we're not overflow for Edinburgh as overcrowded allotment. So you're having to chase me, Angela.
So you're picking flowers.
These are selling our market stall tomorrow. We have a market stall on a Friday morning. These are called Bells of Ireland. It's a 4-acre site, so there's lots of ground to be gardened and grown on. So the rest of the site that's not the user groups is myself, Ian, who's our community gardener, and up to about 45 volunteers. They don't all come at once, but they come over 3 days a week, Tuesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. So we look after everything else together.
So how many volunteers have you got?
So about 45. You get a few people who come and go, but generally speaking, people stay for a long time. We've got some volunteers, they were here since about 2018, prior to being Jock, Tamson's Gairden for the first 5 years of its existence as a garden. It was a church project.
There goes the wind.
Yeah. And over the years, Duddingson's had this massive bit of ground, this 4 acres, been used for different things, like the original Dobbies grew things on it. The council grew wallflowers here, and then up until about 2014-15, the Scottish Wildlife Trust used it as a wildlife meadow. We have a thing in the last Saturday in November this year, Jock's Festive Fancies. We teach people how to make Christmas wreaths, and then they make one for themselves, and the next week they make one to sell. So we sell like Christmas wreaths and chutney and various things, and have tea and home baking up in the cafe. It's a nice day. It's like fundraising without the major stress.
Still want to think about Christmas.
Never end it, I know. My volunteers are some of them are very clever at the building of things. But some people, quite a lot of people turn up here and they never gardened before but just want to be outside.
I think it's really important. That's why I've set this podcast up really, because part of it is about supporting the community and voluntary organisations, but also because I saw people coming in from the car park, and their faces just lit up. And I think that's it.
I think when you come in here, especially if people are kind of express, tell me that they've had mental health problems, or they've been through a difficult time like bereavement, or just find it stressful at work. I think when you walk in and see that view there across the loch and over towards the Pentlands, it does half the job for you. Really, just that kind of.
I think it does. It's so important to be outside.
Really, I feel like myself, really I've mostly been a beginner gardener for 30 years, and I like to curry in, but it's after a wee while, things kind of crowd up in your brain, and the moment I step outside, I always feel better.
Yeah.
That's my kind of counsellor, is the shore at Bowness where I live, just out along there, and the time I've done a bit and come back,
Yeah, I'm the same. You just need to be outside, don't you? So you garden, but you also manage the volunteers and things, do you?
Yeah.
So you've got to do everything?
Not quite everything, but quite a lot of things. Ian, who's community gardener, does 3 days a week full time. So we manage the volunteers between us. He works with us as community gardener. So he's been great. We also have a wellbeing worker. Funded through EVOC Community Mental Health and Wellbeing Fund, so that's allowed us to have a few volunteers who maybe need a bit of extra support and encouragement to come in and work with us. It's something we'd like to do because, for your average just kind of confident person to rock up into a new thing, that can be difficult enough, but for some people who might just cross the city and meet people they've never met before, nightmare, the shyness, the kind of, so that's who the kind of people we want to get in working with us, so that makes that possible.
So if someone wanted to volunteer, they could get in touch with you first and arrange to meet you here. They wouldn't have to just turn up and walk around the garden and hope to see someone. They could.
No, you can get in touch through the website. Most people come to us via Volunteer Edinburgh. A really good friend and partner to us over the years. It's also where we got the chair of our trustees from. I don't like being like a moany-faced Scottish person, but seriously, this is the worst year, the worst growing year, and then all the time I've been a gardener, absolutely pants.
It's been bad. I agree.
But, we've got some nice stuff out of the ground. So we built this a group that came a few years back, who were doing some work where they needed a bit of privacy, a bit of hideaway space. And they said, could we have a tiny wee shed? And I was writing a grant application and got a bit carried away.
So that's not a tiny wee shed.
Yeah, this was
space, isn't it?
funded by the One City Trust, which is the Lord Provost charity, and Travis Perkins, builder's merchant. And they've both been back a couple of times to see the place.
And what do people use it for?
So just somewhere where kind of groups or individuals who need some time out, and then we have meetings in there as well. Part of our evaluation for our work to report back to funders is we have a bi-monthly volunteer meeting. The volunteers talk about how they're feeling about the place, what they like, what they don't like, what they'd want to see more or less of with one of our trustees, without Ian and I being there to kind of, so they can talk about us if they need to. So that's one of the things we use it for. And just for people where it's all getting a bit much and they need to get away, because it can get really busy here. Here's a volunteer here. This is the new herb garden. So we're making it's a kind of going to be the world's simplest labyrinth. Where you can see the grey stone, that'll be the paths, and the brown bits or the weedy bits will be beds. And we've constructed it so we can get wheelchair users can get round it and right next to the plants. In the middle, where that pole's sticking up at the moment, is going to be some kind of cast water feature thing.
So I ask people I interview 2 questions. What does being outside mean to you?
Being outside, I think, is my natural habitat. As a child, I spent lots of time in the woods, climbing trees, getting stuck up them, and I think that's where my happiest. So it helps me, it's good for my mental health, helps me keep the heat.
Yeah. So where's your favourite outdoor space in Edinburgh? Obviously here. Are there other places
Do you know
love
what?
to go
This
to?
is like it's the least green part of Edinburgh, but standing on Jeffrey Street, looking up to the North Bridge, I love it. I remember when I came to Edinburgh when I was about 17, and looking up in this bus seemed to appear out of mid-air, and there's just something about the span of the North Bridge and the amazing mixed bag of architecture, that 20s Scottish office thing, and the Balmoral Tower and the Waverley Station. Absolutely, I think it's my favourite place in Edinburgh.
That's great. It's got a buzz there, I would say. Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. I've really enjoyed visiting the garden. It's been fantastic.
Pleasure. It's lovely to
I
have
feel
you.
completely rejuvenated walking around.
Well,
and
do come back and visit us.
I will do.
If you want to come and volunteer.
I'll definitely come back. So if anyone is interested in volunteering, they can find out more on the website as well, can't they?
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Contact page there. Yeah.
Lovely. Thank you. If you've enjoyed the Edinburgh Outdoors podcast, please rate us on your podcast app and leave a review. And don't forget to tell your friends and colleagues about it too. If you know of an outdoor space in or around Edinburgh that might like to be featured, you can get in touch by email, Instagram or TikTok.